All right, good evening. The Rancho Public Schools Board of Education meeting for Monday, January 22nd, 2024 is now called to order. Please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Jeff Morgan will lead us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. JC, can you take a roll call for us?
President Galbraith,
Present.
Vice President Morgan,
Present.
Board Member Tripp,
Present.
Board Member Miller,
Present.
Board Member Tyler.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you so much. We'd like to welcome everyone out to tonight's meeting. We have some great things that we're going to be going through. We also have the cities here who's going to be presenting to us some things that are coming up on the election, and so we're grateful to them for being here tonight. We'll go ahead and start off with approving the prioritized agenda and proposed time allocations.
Madam President, this is Board Member Tyler. I'd like to make a motion to approve the prioritized agenda and proposed time allocation.
Board Member Jeff Morgan, a second.
Okay, we have a motion by Jessica Tyler and a second by Jeff Morgan. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay, this is always my favorite meeting to conduct as we're going to go through, but so we're going to go through and we'll be reorganizing our board for the year. Now, please remember as we do this, we just changed the policy so that this will be for 2 years instead of the 1 year that we've been doing. So as we go through, we can definitely have any sort of conversation that anyone would like to.
Madam President, I'll make a motion that Amanda Galbraith is our president.
I'll second.
Okay, do we have any other nominations for board president? Okay, so we'll go ahead to a, thank you all. You guys are all wonderful.
Roll call.
We'll go ahead and go to a roll call vote for this.
Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Board Member Miller,
Yes.
Board Member Tyler,
Yes.
Board Member Tripp.
Yes.
Do I ask?
You can ask me too. Yes.
President,
I will do that.
motion carries 5-0.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. It was fun today. JC and I were talking back and forth on all the different things. She's like, I've never had to do this one. So it's always a learning experience to go through these. So thank you all.
Can I go on?
Okay, we're into our next.
But you can certainly have a.
We're board. Okay, board vice
I'd like to
president.
make a motion, Jeffrey Morgan as vice president.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. Any other nominations for this one? We'll go ahead and go to a roll call vote for this.
Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Board Member Tripp,
Yes.
Board Member Miller,
Yes.
Board Member Tyler,
Yes.
President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's see. Okay, so we'll now go to nominations for the office of board secretary.
Madam President, I'll make a motion for Jessica Tyler for secretary.
Second. Perfect, and I third and fourth, and so thank you. Okay, are any other nominations? Okay, so we'll go for a roll call vote on this.
Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Board Member Tripp,
Yes.
Board Member Miller,
Yes.
Board Member Tyler,
Yes.
President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay, so now on this one, it's a little different than I think we've done. Sometimes we'll go ahead and we'll appoint. So on these ones, perhaps we'll have a little bit of a conversation of what works with everyone. Currently, we have, Jessica, you've been serving as the Finance Committee chairperson. Would that be something you're still willing to chair, or would you like a change from that?
I would be willing, but if somebody else would like to take that, I'd be happy to allow them to.
So we have, just so we know, so we have
I would
finance.
prefer to stay on that versus the audit committee just
Yeah.
because of timing. So if it pleases the board, I will continue to serve in that capacity.
Okay.
Me too.
So
Make a motion for Jessica Tyler for the finance committee chair.
And I don't think, Lauren, we don't need an motion on these ones for sure, right? If we appoint, if we have the. A motion. Okay, perfect. Okay.
Board
Thank
Member
you.
Jeff Morgan, I second.
Okay, so we
I
have,
think you either have to, not, you have to appoint or you have to vote.
or the board can, okay, I see. Okay, so this one, so we'll have Jessica Tyler. So since we have a motion in a second, we'll go ahead and go to a roll call vote on this one.
Vice President Morgan.
Yes.
Board Member Tripp.
Yes.
Board Member Miller.
Yes.
Board Member Tyler.
Yes.
President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
And then currently, Jeff, you've been serving as the vice chair, is that correct? On the finance, who's our finance vice chair? It wasn't Noreen. Noreen was our, would you be willing to take that vice chair for finance?
As the chair, can I appoint him as my vice chair? How do you like that?
No, that's true. That's true. Do you have anyone? Are you good?
Do you
Okay.
need a motion now?
So if I can appoint, or we can, so we can, I can just appoint that one. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm good to appoint if you're comfortable with
yeah,
that.
please.
You good with that? Okay. For our audit committee, Beth Miller, would you be willing to take on the chairperson for our audit committee? Okay, so I'll have Beth Miller for that. And then Gary, you've been currently serving as that vice chair. Are you willing to continue that one? I know you have a lot going on, so if that's,
I'll try it. I'll try it.
is that okay to continue on as the vice chair? Just let us know if it's too much with all the other things that are happening.
Thank you. I
on
will.
here. Okay. Okay. So I think we got through everything. You can see, even though we've been doing this for 4 years now, going through these, I never felt comfortable as we go through all the nominations, and the appointments. So, okay, we're good going through all those. JC, do you have everything written down good in your notes? Okay, perfect. All right, so with that, thank you, everyone. I'm really excited. I just want to put out, I'm really excited to have Beth, and it's hard sometimes for change with not Noreen, but we're really fortunate to have Beth, and I'm excited to move forward with all of you. It's just been great to work with all of you over the last few years, and so it's been a really great board, and so I hope that we can continue to have just a lot of successes in helping the students of the district. So thank you so much. Any questions on any of those items? Okay. So we'll move over to Dr. Cleveland. She has some introductory comments.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and we appreciate you being with us this evening. Before this meeting, we met at 3:00 and we heard the final Rio Rancho Public School Executive Director and Board discussions. And this is the third. The first one was with the curriculum instruction executive directors. The second was with our operational. And then the one that we had this evening was with athletics, fine arts, and student services. And basically, we had a round table, and the board had reports that had been delivered to them a couple of months previously, and they were able to ask questions and discuss with those three executive directors about asking them questions about their departments. And so it was a good session, and we appreciate the board's time in having those discussions with us. Okay. Certainly the three areas are really very important areas to us. And as we talked about during the workshop, these athletics, fine arts, and student services enrich and support our students. We are so proud of both of our fine arts and athletic programs because they keep our students engaged. Much beyond that, though, they provide really valuable life skills, and they're very much a part of our commitment to educating the whole child. And so we've had tremendous success in both of those, and we thank the community, and we especially thank the board for its ongoing support of these two areas that we believe make a real difference in the lives of our students. And then we also had student services, and this is one of our larger departments, and they provide much needed support in the area of nursing, counseling, and resources for students who are in need and dealing with some of the behavioral issues that our students are experiencing. So it was a good workshop, and we're now done with that for this year, and we may be looking at a little different process for next year. We had on our last board meeting that we weren't able to get to a professional development,
And on January the 8th, we had a professional development day that was held across the district with our staff. And it was a variety of different activities at both the elementary and secondary levels. And we had district-wide activities that took place in the morning, and those were district-wide focus issues or training or opportunities for growth. And then the afternoon was designated for the building level collaboration, working with principals and instructional leaders in the individual schools. You have a handout if you would like to look at it, but we offered over 40 classes and opportunities for professional growth, and they were excellent. And we always put a tremendous emphasis on the importance of professional growth, always getting better, always continuous improvement. And that was the focus of this. I want to thank the C&I department who did a fabulous job on getting that day organized. And we had so many positive comments back about the day. And we appreciate the time and effort that you took to have that all ready. First day we're coming back after break, but everything went really well. So again, thanks to you. But I also wanted you to know and the community to know that on those days, we have very full schedule. There's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of things going on. And it's not just folks just coming back and having a day. So we wanted you to see the specifics. So I hope you'll take a moment and look through all of the things that we did offer our professional staff. And there was also some opportunities for our classified and support staff going on that day as well. And here's just some pictures. They say pictures are worth 1,000 words. So this is some of the things that were going on in elementary professional development. And then our secondary professional development as well. So again, a day well organized and well spent. We've been through the board transition. As you know, the Board of Education is required to swear in new or re-elected members. And many of them have already been sworn in at the New Mexico School Boards Association meeting in December. But we think it's always nice to do that. And so we did that at our last meeting. And then, as you've just heard, they've elected their new slate of officers and committee chairs. I would emphasize that finance and audit are both statutorily required positions and do have some requirements in terms of the times those committees need to meet and what needs to be covered. During the audit, for example, it's monthly, and we're just now getting ready to kick into our budget development process. Of course, waiting to see what happens in the New Mexico legislature in the next couple of weeks. And again, congratulations to Beth Miller, who is new on our board. We're so glad to have her joining our board. Beth has a rich career in higher education at UNM, and she has had administrative responsibilities in both the Gallup and Rio Rancho campuses. And she has also been very involved in community service organizations and task forces, a member of Rotary for many years, and currently a member of the Sandoval Health Collaborative. And then congratulations again to Amanda Galbraith on her reelection for another 4 years, and now as president. We truly appreciate her dedication and her commitment to our staff and students and families. We have this evening a presentation from the city of Rio Rancho. There will be a presentation made by the Rio Rancho city manager, Matt Geisel, about the upcoming election for the city on March the 5th. He's going to present for the board information regarding the city councilor offices up for election, the bond questions that will be on this ballot, where the public can obtain additional information, voter registration information, and some information about locations. And so, Matt, we thank you for coming this evening and sharing this very important information about the city of Rio Rancho's election with our board, our staff, our parent community, and I would add that some of these proposals impact our district. And so would want you to be looking at that also in terms of it benefits the city, but it also benefits us as well. And so what we look forward to his presentation this evening. And then we will have an update on the CTE facility, and this is going to be presented by Mike Baker and Patrick Martinez. The purpose of the update includes a historical perspective, understanding how we got to this point, and certainly some of you have been part of that, but it's always good to have a review. And then we also wanted Beth Miller to be able to pick up that history and know kind of where we have come from to get to where we are today. The budget and all of its complexities and how we're paying for this facility. And it's a bit convoluted, but certainly that can be explained as well. We're very excited about this facility. Who's all involved in the budget and construction decisions, identifying key players. And I know that most of you know that once we take state money, we have state partners in this process, and they're with us every step of the way as we move through this process. And Mike Baker can share information with you, a little bit of information about our update, an update about our partnership with CNM, and then some of the challenges that we're facing with this project and the many accomplishments that we have to date. We've gotten a lot done from where we began to where we are. And so we'll be going over that in greater detail in just a couple of minutes. We have a couple of business items. Mike Baker, again, our Chief Operations Officer, will present a grant agreement with the New Mexico Department of Transportation and with the Public Ed Department for funding $850,000 to plan, design, and construct an access point for the CTE complex. That may not be enough to do all of it, but boy, were we glad to see that grant opportunity. And as you well know, and some of you have voiced, there have been concerns regarding possible traffic management challenges when this campus opens. And so they'll be looking at how we might alleviate some of that or improve traffic management in the area. We certainly express our appreciation to DOT to help us improve safety and access to the site. And then we have a second grant. Lynn Carl, our Executive Director for Transportation, will be presenting to the board a grant agreement to provide $104,444 for a school bus. And we really appreciate this grant. The only thing I would say with that is because we need a whole lot more of those buses. We are very short of buses in this district. And one bus is great, but we could use about 27 more. So we hope we can continue to see some additional funding for school buses. But this one is very much appreciated. And that's all I have. If you have any questions, comments, or anything, concerns you'd like to raise.
Or comments from the board?
No, we're good.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. We'll now go over to our public comment. And so let me pull that up. We don't have any in-person public comment tonight, but we did receive one about mid-December. We just haven't had a meeting that we could discuss it. So we're not going to discuss it, but we have one public comment, and this is from Monica Newland. And she was concerned on December 13th, there were some plumbing issues over at Maggie Cordova. And that the school opened the next day. She was concerned that there were still some issues with the plumbing and that the communication to parents was not good. So that is our public comment for the evening. If anyone desires to give public comment, please know you can come into the boardroom and give it in person. You can also go to our form online and give public comment there. Okay, going into our reports. So as Dr. Cleveland said, we have a report tonight from the city of Rio Rancho, and we'd like to welcome Matt Geisel. Matt, I feel like I haven't seen you in a while, so it's nice to see you. He's the city manager for Rio Rancho.
Good evening. Thank you. I was close to putting Lauren to work for me.
He would have done it. He would have done a great job.
I think he would have. He's such a trooper. Good evening, President, Vice President, members of the school board. Is the microphone on? Can you hear me okay? Okay, there, I can hear it now. I'm going to try to move through this very quickly because you have a business to get to in the agenda. I have a PowerPoint and a couple handouts that kind of go hand in hand. On March 5th, we will have our municipal election. It is for 3 council seats and 3 GO bond questions. Go to the next slide, please. So the 3 council seats, we have 6 city council seats every 2 years. 3 of the seats are up for re-election. In this election, we have council districts 1, 4, and 6. So you can see those up there on the map. One is kind of the traditional southwest portion of the city. If you think of west of Unser, it includes Quail Ranch, but west of Unser and south of Southern, with a couple exceptions to that, but that's the general area of District 1. District 4 is kind of the traditional central portion of Rio Rancho, north of Southern, east of Unser, up to High Resort and Fruta, and a little bit of a northern, so around Nicholas, Western Hills, the Rolling Hills area. That's District 4. And then District 6 is River's Edge, Vista Hills, Loma Colorado, and as I affectionately call it, the Dirt Road neighborhood, Unit 17. So 4 distinct neighborhoods there. And those seats are up for election. And just to put a name to those districts, District 1, the seated councilor is Owen. District 4, the seated councilor is Paul Weimer. District 6, the seated councilor is Nicole List. Next slide, please. We also have on the bond, or excuse me, on the ballot, 3 general obligation bonds. In 2016, the city started our bonding efforts. For those of you, been in the community for, obviously in the early years, the city was young, was growing really fast. Infrastructure was new, didn't really need worry too much about infrastructure. When I joined the city in 2009, shortly after joining the city, then city manager James Jimenez and Mayor Swistak worked on putting a road question on the ballot in 2009 to start really the thought process there is we're coming up on 30 years old. We have to start thinking about our infrastructure. And that 2009 bond passed, and we're able to start tackling some of our infrastructure at that time. Due to a handful of issues, in 2011, the GEO bond, there's a road GEO bond, and there's actually an active effort to vote no on that GEO bond, and that bond failed. 2013, the governing body did not put a bond question before the voters. In 2016, in 2014, Mayor Hall was elected, and upon his election, and city manager Keith Riesberg joined the city at that time, there was a real concerted, and concentrated effort to realize that we had to start tackling our infrastructure. A lot of work as well on the utility side at that time with the service line replacements and things like that. 2016, we had our first road bond successfully passed. Fast forward to 2020. So we've had road bonds starting in every 2 years, starting in 2016. And then 2020, we had our first public safety GEO bond. And then in 2022, we had our first quality of life general obligation bond. We have done that as we have. How we've been able to add those additional bonds, it's really been through growth in the property tax base. We have not increased the city's mill levy to expand the reach of those bonds, but really being able to do more as the property tax base has grown in Rio Rancho, both on the residential and the commercial side. The 3 questions, and I'll give you a little more detail on each of these roads, is $10.6 million, public safety 4.2, quality of life 1.2. Next slide, please. Talk a little bit about the 3 roads that we have here on this project, and for GEO bonds, as I mentioned, it's 10.6, but 9.3 in the listed roads. As I think you are probably familiar with, the 1% for the arts, plus a little bit of a contingency goes into those. This list of 3 roads here, Lima, which I think Dr. Cleveland is referencing, a road that directly benefits Lincoln Middle School. That road was probably built, probably even pre-incorporation of the city, I'd guess, is when Lincoln, late 70s, early 80s, was my guess when that road was built. No real drainage infrastructure in there. That area, that's what we call, it has a lot of surface carry or sheet carry of the roads. You get a freeze thaw going through there, and that road right in front of the school, we know what condition it's in. I'm really excited to have that on the list for the voters to consider for potential reconstruction. 19th Avenue, this is in the North Hills neighborhood, and then Safe Light Boulevard, right, between 550 and Enchanted Hills Boulevard. We've been doing a lot of projects up in the Enchanted Hills Boulevard as well. Montreal Loop was a previous GEO bond project. Right now, we're working on Enchanted Hills Boulevard. GEO bond projects include Northern, which was a little bit of my delay in getting here this evening. And through alternative funding sources, we also have Vortex and Laser being worked on. And then Quantum was a 2022 GEO bond road project, what we'll be doing here pretty soon. So when you look at those roads, one of the questions we get is why these roads? As much road work as we've done over the last, going back to 2016, and in the community newsletter that we sent out right on the first of the year, in the middle section, there's a pie chart that talks about the 38 major road projects we funded since 2016 and $109 million that we've been able to invest through diverse funding sources, including the general obligation bond. As I mentioned, I started to tell a little bit of the tale of we really didn't start tackling or road work in the community in a systematic, consistent manner until 2016. There was an effort that started in 2009 and then and kind of stalled out, but picking that back up. But this, why these roads, really looking for some geographical spread across the city, looking for roads that, then fit in with the constraints of the budget. But we know we also have more road needs out there as a city. And the long list that our Director of Public Works presented to the governing body to come up with these 3 roads had $60 million worth of road projects on it. The list he presented to me was over 120. So the list and the needs are continue to be out there. We've made a lot of progress in recent years. One of the beauties of the bonding cycle, and I know you guys are very familiar with bonding cycles as a school board, it allows us to consistently and predictably tackle the challenges year in and year out by staying on top of it and not riding a roller coaster, but continue to chip away. Next slide. On the public safety bonds, usually they're a combination of equipment, varying types of equipment, split it approximately 50-50 between the police and the fire department based on the cost of apparatuses and engines and things like that. It doesn't always work out as a perfect split. But as you'll see here, we have police vehicles, approximately 17, a crisis negotiation vehicle. Right now, they're using an old ambulance for their C&T purposes. If you're not sure what a crisis negotiation team does, I encourage you to ask board member Tyler afterwards. She'll give you a better answer than I probably can, given her experience in law enforcement. Replacement ladder truck, as well as the remnant of the funding will go towards a fire rescue engine replacement, which coupled with some other funding sources. Similar thing that we've seen on our public safety equipment, thanks to the GO bond, thanks to the support of our legislators, thanks to other funding sources, is over the last 10 years, we've really gotten to a predictable and steady replacement cycle on our public safety vehicles. 10 years ago, most of our police fleet was pushing upwards of 150,000 miles, and they're the old Crown Vics that you'd hit a bump and a mile later the car was still bouncing up and down. I think board member Tyler and Mr. Baker know exactly what I'm talking about in those types of vehicles. Now we're able to stay out in front of it and replace our vehicles between 80 and 120,000 miles. So really been having a quality fleet there. And then next slide. Excited over in the last GO bond is really start working on our park improvements, playground equipment, and our really concentrating in our older neighborhoods, reinvesting those parks, addressing ADA compliance, improving their surfaces, playground structures, playground equipment, and we split this money between parks and libraries. Some of the parks that we did in the last GO bond included Riverside Park and River's Edge 2, Beja Baja Park in Corrales Heights, and then in this upcoming, we have a Star Heights Park, Vista Sandia, as well as library materials and equipment. Next slide, please. We're carrying out, being here this evening. You're all community minded. The folks in this room are community minded. Appreciate the opportunity just to help get the word out. Help spread the word, amplify the message that the GO bonds and the elections are coming up. Encourage the public to get in, to be informed, get informed, and participate in that electoral process. It's very important. It's one of the greatest things that we have available to us is to be able to vote. We are doing a series of open house public information sessions. The first one was last week. We have coming up on February 1st at the Hub in Enchanted Hills during the day, and then on Saturday, February 10th at 10 a.m. at the Haynes Community Center. We'll be continuing giving public speeches like this as well. Next slide, please. Voter registration. Individuals must be registered by Tuesday, March 6th. And I'm going to start referring to something, and it's on this brochure. Any questions that I brought up today is rrnm.gov/RR votes. If you just remember that URL, anything and everything we talked about today is listed there, including our polling locations and how to register by contacting the Sandoval County Clerk's Office. Next slide.
Just correction, you said March 6th, you mean February 6th.
Yes, thank you very
Yeah.
much.
You'd be in trouble if you wait.
Yes, yeah, February 6th. You can't vote the day after the election. Maybe in other countries, but not here. Early voting, we have multiple early voting locations starting on Tuesday, February 6th. And as the earliest one, Broadmoor Senior Center, Plaza at Unser Marketplace, Loma, Colorado Library, the Rio Rancho MVD, the Hub at Enchanted Hills, which is where we have our new community and library, and the Rio West Business Center, which is just down the road from here by the Starbucks at Sunt and 528. And then next slide. These are election day votings. On the left-hand side of this slide here, you see those are the same locations as the early voting. And then on the right-hand side, the locations that we'll be adding on election day: Rio Rancho, the Community Center in Cabazon, Rio Rancho Middle School, Cielo Azul Elementary School, Puesta del Sol Elementary School, Lincoln Middle School, and Colinas del Norte Elementary School. So thank you for the opportunity to use the schools on election day. Hopefully it'll be minimalistic interruptions to operations at the schools that day. And I think the last slide just has that URL again, rrnm.gov/RR vote. That's a lot of R's. It's a little bit of a tongue twister if you like a pirate. I say all those R's. And again, the materials I left, and I'll leave some here for anyone like to pick them up, as a brochure about the elections, and then our community newsletter. This is our third community newsletter that we are sending out to all postal customers in the city. Just trying to help get additional information out to the residents of our community to be aware of community happenings at the municipal level. So thank you very much, and I stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And I got to put a plug in for that Lima Road, because it really is so bad. And that school, it serves all that community around it, plus the Cabazon community. So we have a lot of traffic that goes down Lima. So I'm really happy, very, very happy to see that road on there. So any questions from the board or comments, Gary?
One question. I would vote for my neighborhood before Lima, but no. Matt, I just want to thank the city for everything, and just let you know that about an hour ago I put more pressure on life activities, that there would be a fine arts building included, and maybe we have an orchestra someday for the citizens of Rio Rancho. So just a little plug in for another thought process for this great city, but thank you for all you do.
Thank you. I'm glad you brought that up, because when we were in there, I thought we need a theater if we're going to do that. Jeff Morgan,
No
anything?
questions, just thanks for the information. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. And Jessica?
Thank you for being here. And I think sometimes people think, what is the city doing here at a school board meeting? But a strong city and a strong school board go hand in hand. And so we appreciate you taking the time to be here, encourage people to go out and vote and get involved and continue to support our city so that we can have a strong district, and appreciate the collaboration and the work that we get to do together.
Thank you. Beth Miller, anything?
Hi, Matt. Just add my thanks for coming this evening and giving us information about the election. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And Dr. Cleveland?
Just the same thank you. And again, to the board, there are several of these items that will have an impact on us. And one of the things that we really appreciate are good roads for our school buses to travel down. And it makes the buses last longer. And it's a little less exciting for the driver and the riders sometimes if they're smooth. So, but again, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate you being here.
Yeah,
Very much.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, our next report will be a CTE building update. We have Patrick Martinez, our Executive Director of Facilities, along with Mike Baker, our Chief Operations Officer, who will be presenting.
Thank you. Good evening, President Galbraith, Dr. Cleveland, members of the board. I'm here tonight to give you a CTE building renovation update. I'm going to start with the building and go into the update with the building, where we're at, kind of progress that we've made, and then Mike will come in after and give kind of that historical aspect of it and kind of some more overarching information. Next slide. So a big part of in preparation for the renovation was clearing out the building, and that was an undertaking in itself. As many of you know who've seen the building, you know there's quite a bit of existing furniture that was there, equipment, and it took a lot of effort to go through it. You know, we were able to utilize a lot of the office furniture, and it was kind of dispersed throughout the district. But the rest of it we had to catalog and then auction off, and so that took some time, and we were able to do that. And so if you remember this image, it's really interesting because that had nothing but cubicles, just wall to wall cubicles. And so we were able to clear all of that out, get all of the equipment out, and then salvage any equipment that was useful in the building. So we were able to do that, and it took a little bit of time, but it went well. Next slide. The next really big part of this process was some design coordination. As Dr. Cleveland mentioned, you know, this is a partnership with CNM, and so there was a lot of equipment in this building that needed to be coordinated specifically with CNM instructors. So that did take some time, but we were able to get a lot of it coordinated. In the meantime, we were purchasing specific types of equipment specifically for carpentry, welding, automotive, and then we currently have a full list of that equipment that's being finalized, vetted. We've had some questions going back and forth with the vendor as to you know how this equipment's going to be installed, and so it's taken a little time, but we've really moved forward, and I can tell you it has been a huge coordination piece. And then the last piece is just a lot of the technology. Again, we're you know in partnership with CNM. There's a lot of coordination as to what type of equipment we're going to be using, specifically technology. You know, we're going to have two separate networks. So really understanding the technological needs and how they'll function both for CNM and for Rio Rancho students has been a big part of that. Next slide. So to go into the design update, we have gotten a demolition permit. We got that in November. Demolition has started, and they've made quite a bit of progress. As of December 4th, we did have our full set of construction documents. And they were turned in to CID, and we did receive a permit for our full building permit as of January 5th. And so there shouldn't be any holdup as far as building demolition is underway. So we shouldn't have any holdup there. And then as we've gone through demolition, one of the nice parts about the structure for this project is starting demolition early. It gives us some insight to things we might not have been able to see with the walls up. So as we started knocking down walls, tearing up flooring, we're really getting a good idea of what is under there and what we might be in store for. Next slide. As I mentioned, you know, the contractor has mobilized completely. Fencing has been set up. They have started demolition. You'll see some images on the next slide. And we were able to salvage fixtures, light fixtures. There was an LED upgrade that was done not too long ago at this site. So we were able to take down many of these LED fixtures, and we'll be able to reuse them in the new facility. And that's what you see in that image. We're able to palletize them and put them in a Connex box to make sure that they stay safe. Next slide. Here are some images of the demolition. And so as you can see, they've done quite a bit of work. They've knocked down many of the walls. In fact, the image on the right-hand side was the entrance. If you guys remember going to the building, that had the turnstiles, it had the big bulletproof, little vestibules, all of that has been demolished. And that's actually a key area we've been able to expose the roof because there's some structural implications to the facade of the building, the front area that we're able to see and really make sure that it's planned for properly. Next slide. Just a few more demolition photos. As you can see, the image on the left was the area where all the cubicles were that I showed earlier, and so they're really starting to look at that. And then on the right is what you might have seen existing, but the reason I put that is because the flooring actually, when it was ripped up, it was revealed there's terrazzo flooring under that entire area. And so although that's really nice, that also kind of it's a change from what we had expected to do. You know, we had thought we're going to have polished concrete throughout for most of the areas. Well, we have this nice terrazzo flooring, so we get to look at maybe ways we can incorporate that, because as you know, it's a pretty good chunk of slab of rock that you got to account for. Next slide. So in going into the design update a little bit further, I did show this at our last update, how the site works, but for Beth, as you can see, we are going to be creating a sort of roundabout within the site for pickup and drop off. We're creating more ADA parking. But one big part about it is we are going to be redoing the outdoor patio that sits just to the south of the building. It's currently there, but we're going to be looking at, revamping it. The nice thing about the CMAR process is we've been able to kind of look at this throughout and gauge the budget for it to see if it's something that's doable. And it looks like it will be, which is nice because it gives a nice outdoor space, an extension of the cafeteria. So that's one thing I wanted to highlight. Next slide. Again, I showed this same image at our last update as well to kind of show how the building's broken up. The light blue is the administration, the yellows, the Rio Rancho spaces, which will be specific to the high school, CTE spaces, which will be that collaboration with CNM, the lab spaces, which are pushed to the top of the building, mechanical rooms. And then one thing I really wanted to highlight, again, going with, how not difficult, but some of the challenges that we faced in this project is that we ran into a pretty important code issue with this building because of the construction, the type of construction. It is mainly wood frame roof. There were certain fire restrictions, so the square footage actually became an issue. We weren't allowed to use to have an educational occupancy in this amount of square footage. So what we had to do is essentially split the building into two buildings. So what you see there, that dotted red, is actually going to be completely separate from the rest of the building. And that detail that that I've highlighted shows you that we are cutting the concrete, cutting the roof, cutting everything, and essentially creating a separate building within a building. And this kind of helps mitigate that code issue. And it's had to go to CID. We've had to work closely with CID to really understand the implications of this, and then also present it to subcommittees to make sure that we're making sure that we're meeting all the fire codes. So that was a big part I wanted to highlight. But it is interesting that when with renovation, you kind of never know what you're going to get or what things you might run into. Next slide. Another major design update that we've gone through as we've been going through this process is really looking at how we maximize the building. And so we've decided to implement a data center for the district. And what this will do is it will help with a resilient load balance network, so that one data center isn't doing overload, and if they need to go back and forth, they're able to do that. And so we've been working with that. There was quite a bit of MDF space in the current facility that we were going to maintain, and so it seemed like it made the most sense to utilize that space. Next slide. And then we get to the fun stuff. This is really what the building might look like in the front. We took a lot of feedback from our last presentation about the facade and making sure that it was something that really was highlighted from 528. And so this is currently what it would look like, extending the covered area to make sure there's protection at the entrance. And if you go to the next slide, again, some feedback we got on the last time was kind of making sure that this would be off the labs. And so making sure that it's covered so that we don't have to deal with weather like snow and ice on that backside that's not going to get a lot of sunlight. And this will really help so that it can always be used. We're going to have heavy equipment back there. So next slide. And so with that, I will hand it over to Mike, who can go over some of the historical perspective, go over some of the overall budget and schedule.
Thank you, Patrick. President Galbraith, Dr. Cleveland, members of the school board. So my part is really to kind of go back and give you all kind of rehash the historical perspective of this project, and really also to benefit our new board member, Ms. Miller, on this. And so this CTE journey, even though it probably goes back further than 2019, really began in 2019 when we went out to the voters and we asked the voters at that time for a $60 million bond issue. That particular bond issue had a number of projects on it, one of which was CTE. And the amount of funding for that project at that time was $8 million. In addition to that, we planned out all the projects beginning in 2020 to through 2024. And the original plan was to actually start the planning in the year 2023. As you know, things have changed since then. And so I know Dr. Cleveland and the board, after the original plan, thought we need to get this project up and running sooner than 2023. And so since then, we have been making arrangements in order to get this project up and running and completed as soon as possible. One of the things that changed a number of times was the vision of CTE. And that is, in the beginning, we really weren't exactly sure exactly what we wanted. So that took some time to actually plan a model. We had a number of different type of models. We selected what we have now. And the other thing that changed, and even though there was talk about it, was our partnership with CNM. And so in order to enhance the CTE experience, we decided to have a partnership with CNM. And so we began that journey with CNM some time ago and realized that CNM and Rio Rancho Public Schools really have two separate missions, and to come together took quite a bit of time to actually form our memorandum of agreement where we have today. And so in order to have the benefits from essentially a college and a public school, took quite a bit of time of negotiating between the two entities. But one of the things that we did early on was, because we wanted to get CTE moving, is we looked at, there was a building that was up for sale, approximately 40,000 square foot building. We took a look at it. The building looked pretty ripe for renovation. Location was pretty good in the center of town. But then we got information that there was another building that was quite a bit larger. And so we took a look at it. And that building was the building we eventually purchased in 2021. And that building was 74,000 square feet, and compared to the other one, which was approximately 40,000 square feet. So it had a lot more to offer. The building that we did select was actually in much better condition, but also the building cost quite a bit more. However, the advantage for the district was that there was a lease agreement between the owners and the existing business. Because of that, we were able to leverage a deal that really benefited the district and the taxpayers of our community. And the way we structured it, we actually saved approximately $4.6 million in that acquisition. Not to mention the acquisition of the property. So the property that we acquired was 10 acres where the building was located, or 12 acres where the building was located. And we also purchased an adjacent 10 and a half acres as well. So to date, for the building and the property, I believe we spent $12.7 million. So, like I said earlier, our original budget was $8 million. And so here we already spent $12.7 million, and we haven't started renovation yet. Not to mention our partnership with CNM, we weren't sure how that was going to develop. But the vision grew. The vision grew into a really beautiful picture. The question was, how are we going to fund it? Well, fortunately for us, is we had a number of grant opportunities, ESSER funds became available, and we quickly leveraged that funding in order to really benefit the CTE project. finally, after negotiating with C&M for quite some time, in the summer of 2022, we finally had a joint powers agreement that, as you know, the school board participated in approving that plan. So some of the benefits of that partnership, obviously, is sharing of fiscal resources. So today, what we're looking at is the original plan in 2019 was an $8 million facility. But today, what we're looking at is approximately $100 million complex that is going to include an incredible, not just the skilled trades that the district is going to provide, but also an incredible auto, EV and diesel center that C&M is going to build. So quite a vision change from 2019 to where we are today. But some of the challenges during that really metamorphosis is really what happened when you're taking an $8 million project, converting it to an approximately $100 million project. Obviously, there were a lot of changes and a lot of challenges. One of the things as a governmental entity, we are required, obviously, to work with other governmental entities in order to get this project up and running. Some of the challenges for us have been the work with PSFA and CID in order to get our permits. That process was a little bit more lengthy than we anticipated. Also, as you know, due to COVID, because of the lead time on supplies, specifically an electrical transformer and switches, those lead times are 18 months. And so fortunately, we were able to order those supplies, but that is something that honestly, we got to pray that we're going to get those within 18 months. And I don't know if I feel real confident when we're looking from now until then, when we're supposed to receive these parts that are integral on our system. Also, talking to the contractor, and as you are aware, the cost of goods and services, specifically construction services, has skyrocketed due to the pandemic and post-pandemic. And that is something that we have felt as a district. The cost of construction has gone up significantly. But more importantly, contractors have found themselves in a labor shortage. Just getting people to come to work has been extremely difficult. And although we have a great contractor on our job, and right now they are doing a great job, they are experiencing labor shortages. So we're hoping that is going to have a minimal effect on our project, but we won't know until we get knee deep into the project. Some of the other challenges that we have faced, and I think Patrick has touched on a number of them, have been some code issues that we had to amend our plan. And you saw the picture of actually building a building within a building in order to accommodate certain codes. And that is not, he just gave you one example. There are several. But also when we're going through this process, we've also saw that there were some opportunities for us, opportunities for the future to actually help us with other areas of the district, namely the data center. So one of the things that we did is we took a little bit more time to redesign the data center, not just to help the networking at that building, but to actually enhance the network for the entire district. So we paused, we did some redesign work, we did some revisioning work for that center. And what we're really focused on is we know that we want to get this building up and running as soon as possible. But at the same token, we also realize that any amount of rework is going to be very, very expensive. So we want to avoid that. So as we're going through the planning process, we want to do it methodically and we want to do it intelligently, because what we miss today will cost us twice as much in the future. So we really took the time to do the design work and to do the planning, what we vision for the next several years where our students will be able to enjoy the facility. Another challenge had to do with equipment. And, you know, you think, okay, we're going to have, for example, residential carpentry. Well, we're going to have a couple of table saws in there, right? Well, not all table saws are created equal. And so depending on the equipment, we have to take a look at the equipment, the specifications that what that piece of equipment needs. What are the electrical needs of that piece of equipment, for example? What are the HVAC? What are the ventilation requirements for all this equipment? And there is dozens of different pieces of equipment, industrial type of equipment, that is going to be in this entire facility. And each one of those items have a different set of specifications that require different planning and installation work as well. And so we are also communicating that with C&M, because C&M, they will be providing the skilled trade instructors. So we had to get that information from them. And again, the partnership, although very difficult, especially in the beginning, trying to come to a common vision, it has been a very good process, although very lengthy. And I think we do have a dynamite project at the end of it. So it was, you know, we believe it was worth the time and the energy in the partnership. And we believe the community will benefit greatly from that partnership. So in the end, what we're looking at right now, just kind of dive into budget a little bit, is we've spent, you know, $12.7 million on the building, on the additional land, and we're looking at spending approximately an additional $32 million. So the good news with this project, and we realize that this is project number one for the school board in regard to facilities, is that, quote unquote, the money is in the bank. In other words, we don't, at this time, we don't need to go out and solicit additional funds in order to get this project completed. So because of the grants that we've had, leveraging ESSER funds, for example, we were able to preserve some of our bond funding, also match that with some operational funding in order to, you know, put this entire package together. So in that regard, right now, we're looking pretty good budget-wise. And it makes me quite nervous, especially due to the fact that the construction costs continue to go up. But we do have a CMAR, so we will get a fixed price here very, very soon. But budget-wise, I think we're on target. Hopefully, we won't have too many surprises as we continue the renovation. Likely, there will be some changes as we go through the project. Hopefully, they won't be so significant to really hurt our budget. So in the end, I think we're progressing nicely with the project. I think we have an incredible project that the community can really be proud of. I think we will be within our budget. The one thing that I am not so optimistic on, and I will be honest with you, is the time. Our target time to open up the facility was January of 25. And so although that is still going to be our goal, and that is what we are still shooting for, I just feel at this time that date may be a little optimistic. And so I just want to kind of just inform the board at this time that it may be a little optimistic for the reasons that I cited in my presentation. The other aspect of starting a new school at mid-year also has a host of challenges. And speaking with Dr. Cleveland and Renee about starting a school mid-year is not an easy task. So there are some benefits of maybe waiting to the fall of 25 instead of the spring of 25. But let's see how the project progresses as we move. In addition to that, currently our students are enjoying a curriculum of CTE at the C&M Rio Rancho branch. And so the plan is to add courses. So the courses will continue at Rio Rancho C&M, and the additional courses we plan on offering as well. So the students will still be able to take the classes. The difference is they may not get to be in the new building for the spring semester in January. So kind of good news, bad news presentation. Again, we're not quitting on the January 25 opening, but I do have to say it is on kind of on the optimistic side. I think with that, myself and Patrick will stand for questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Cleveland, did you want to add anything
No, let
before
the
we,
board
we'll
ask
go
their
to
questions
questions first? Okay, so why don't we go over to Secretary Tyler, if you want to ask any questions or comments?
I don't think I have any questions. I appreciate the update. And while I see the benefits of starting in fall of 2025 versus January, I would like to tell make sure that the people we are contracting with to do the work keep firm on the January date, just so that it's able to open by fall. Because, like you said, in across the industry and construction, I know there's severe delays even just in building a house. So something of this magnitude, it's understandable, but hopefully we can be totally operational by that fall 25.
That's good. Thank you. You have anything?
Thank you for your presentation. I appreciate being brought up to date.
Yeah.
I do have a question. How many programs will be housed in the facility?
Well, off the top of my head, I know we're going to have welding. We're going to have residential carpentry. We are going to have residential electric. We are going to have some type of food management, plumbing, HVAC, CIS computer, and digital media.
Okay.
And I'm probably, and then on the automotive, diesel, and EV as
Right, you
well.
mentioned
So
that.
pretty comprehensive list.
Great. Thank you very
We have
much.
a very nice chart that has all of that, and so we'll be sure to get that to you.
Oh, thank you.
We'll
Okay.
summarize all of that, and it's a really nice document. So we'll be sure, the other board members have it, and we'll
Okay.
make sure you get it as well.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Gary Tripp?
Thank you for the report. I'm still shocked. I'll just say a few things. I'm shocked that the code issue that I don't know who we hired as an architect, but I thought we pay a lot of money for people to know these rules, regulations, and so forth. I know it took a long time to get a curriculum, and we're kind of behind the 8 ball because of developing what we're going to have. And I know the partnership's difficult. I didn't know that we were going to have a data center. I thought we were maximizing for kids, different programs. But I don't think it's a bad idea, just kind of shocked. And I don't know, I go to Albertsons to do my shopping, and that's the thing I hear. You mean 2025? And I said, yeah, Kenny, 2025, man. They'll be there before you know it. And now it might be fall of 25. I think there's a lot of things that I learned from Noreen that I don't know about with this, but it just seems like the community's been waiting 30 years for CT. I know we've been working on it since 2019. It's just, I mean, if CNM and Rio Rancho already had something going pretty good, did we need it? I don't know. It's just shocking for me. I'm just thinking for me to see that we're going to be at fall, and I hope it's not going to be fall of 20. I mean, winter of 26. You know, I know there's a lot out there, but I know that we pay people a lot of money to make, I think, better decisions. You know, but I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thanks. Vice President Morgan.
Mike, you know, I love the numbers piece, man. I appreciate that. From 8 million to 12.7. And then there was a $32 million number you gave. What did you say that was for again?
So if I may review the numbers. So our initial acquisition cost was 12.7 million. And we're looking at putting another 32 million into the renovation for a total of 44.7 million.
Okay, all right.
And it's in the bank. We're good.
In the bank.
So the original 8 million to 12.7
Now 44.7.
44.7. And
That doesn't include CNM's portion.
I was just going to ask you that. So is the difference C&M portion?
Oh, the CNM, they're probably, this is we don't know what their cost is going to be. But their original plan, when we were planning this, the auto center now has doubled in square footage. The original cost of their facility was 22 million. It will likely be in the 45 to 50 million plus range. That's their portion. And so I'm using round numbers, you know, when you're talking 100 million, 1 million here, 1 million there. So we don't know what their cost is going to be for that facility, but that's a real guesstimate.
Right, so based on what you just said, then this thing could get higher than $100 million then, right?
It could be, but I think we have our costs. Our costs are pretty well nailed down. What's not really nailed down is actually access, but I'll talk about that on next item.
This barn, we don't have any code issues again, right? I mean, or do we expect?
We should, and I know, you know, there is, believe it or not, I can't even tell you the aggravation and the frustration that personally I have and that Patrick has had during this process, because we work on this every single day. Every day we're working on this project for the last couple of years. Now, in regard to the architects, there were a number of items where we believe that construction industry from the state, that they may have kind of reinterpreted some of the statutes. And so, you know, there was a negotiation process that went on, and instead of delaying the process and instead of taking them to court, there was a negotiation process. And so we did agree to to do certain things because we didn't want to delay it any further. And we also want to make sure that we have the most safest building possible. So yes, we did agree to have the building within a building. We also agreed to do some other work, not quite nearly as expensive as the building within the building, but to do some other work in order to satisfy the requirements from PSFA and CID as well to get the project moving. And if we didn't do that, we wouldn't be in the construction phase at this time. Construction Industry Division with the state of New Mexico.
And can you tell me what CMAR is? You mentioned that.
Construction Manager at Risk.
Okay, thanks.
And so I'll have Patrick talk about the CMAR.
I have one. Sounds like echo, sorry. I'm guessing on that code restriction, it's not just square footage, but it appears to me it's more fire or also fire because of fire concerns, correct? So I mean, by when you're talking about separating the ceilings and having it be cinder block, it's because of the type of activities that will be going on there, not just the square footage. So it's because we're doing plumbing and welding inside that building, it has to be separated. And basically you have to have firewalls containing that area.
Yes.
So then if I'm hearing you right, the code piece was only a challenge because it's going to be a school facility for what was already there. It wasn't a challenge for, okay, thank you.
Right, exactly. Yes, it had to do with occupancy. And I was a little vague earlier when I said, educational. Really, we have multiple occupancies, and the big ones are the high hazard when you get into welding and plumbing. And so in looking at that, and again, because this has evolved so many times, the location of some of those has evolved. And so really trying to work with where those are going to sit in the building, how that might work. A big part of it was also looking at cost implications because, we may have been able to get around something like that, but there would have been additional cost for fireproofing the ceiling, fireproofing specific areas that would have been astronomically more than just, hey, let's just cut the building in these areas and actually separate it with a CMU wall. So that was a big part of it. I'd like to also just add, when we're talking about 32 million in cost, that's total project cost. So that's not just the construction of the building. That's equipment. That's anything that we need to do to get the building up and running, that, moving costs. That is our total project budget. But really we'll have a better idea of construction costs. Now that leads into the CMAR process, which fortunately for us, the CMAR, what it allows us to do is bring a contractor on at a very early step. So instead of the traditional design bid build where you design it, you bid it, and the contractor takes it and builds it, we bring the contractor in and they start looking from a schematic design phase and even from a programmatic phase, they can start looking at it and saying, okay, here's where you can save money. Here's where we can maximize your budget for this area. Hey, here's what we're seeing in the market. And thankfully for us, the contractor that we have has completed really recent multiple CTE, including the Hobbs CTE building. So they're bringing really up-to-date market costs, real time at every phase of the design. They're closely working with the architect to say, okay, here's what we can add. Here's where we can, maybe value engineer some. And that really helps us maximize our budget to the fullest. And then at the end of it, we don't have any surprises. We're not waiting around saying, hey, how much is this going to be? By the time we get our guaranteed maximum price, we pretty much know what it's going to be. And so that's really helped us secure the budget for this project and make sure that, we can get ahead of it.
All right, good enough. That's all I have.
Oh, good. Okay, that's
You
good.
got that?
All right. Well, thank you. And I know Dr. Cleveland has some things, but good things that I'm seeing is that it looks good. Like it's moving. It's good to see it all torn up, and that looks good. The timing is still not great, but we knew going into this that we were going to see. I'm glad that Gary could bring in some Noreenisms, and help us with some of that. It's hard. My dad's in the construction, business, and so I get it. So and there's not really much we can do to control it. I do agree with Jessica though, as far as let's keep that date in our minds and cement it in there, even though, yes, maybe even just for the safety of the kids, we wait till that fall for opening and such. But I don't want us to go over that date if we can help it. So if we can just keep that in our minds. So thank you so much. It is looking good, and I'm excited for our city to have it. And thanks for putting in the work every day that you are. And I know sometimes it's such a headache. So thank you so much.
If I may just, I want to address the data center.
Mhm.
So the current building had it had an area for its data center. We did not increase that, but what we did was we increased the infrastructure within the same space. So what we're doing is we're ensuring that we have better, or at least we're making sure that we have good HVAC, and we're also making sure that we're going to be installing more equipment. But the space itself is the same. We're not increasing the space.
Thank you.
And on that as well, remember, we also kind of hounded them about the security of our data systems and having those separate from, and the challenges that it presents by having CNM have their own network, our students having their network, not wanting those networks to mix. And so I can see the need for having that infrastructure there to ensure that we have the ability to support that.
Yeah. Does that help everyone?
Not much. Thank you.
It is good, and I think another positive that we have to look at too is that ability that we have right now to use CNM Rio Rancho's campus to run these classes. And so that's a good thing. And I agree. I'm glad that you're saying like we're going to get those classes, up and running, some additional ones and such into that building. And that's a good thing too. So we're not wasting time. We are making sure that we're still getting those programs up and running. And it is sad for, I'm sure, those who are seniors who would love to be, in that building, but it might not work out. Dr. Cleveland, I'm sure you have some comments.
Well, I just wanted a couple of comments on some things. We'll do better on acronyms. Remember to put them in what they are, because not everybody knows them, and educators are the worst, but certainly what I hope everybody was getting out of the number of players in this thing. So CID is Construction Industries Division, correct? And PSFA, Public School Finance Authority, and you all are familiar with PED. And, you just go through the list. And, but and we've talked about this before, but I just really want to emphasize that once you step out and take any state money, you picked up another partner at the table. And they don't always say yes to you, do they, Mike? Not always. Or Patrick, it's ideal when you don't have any other money in these deals but your own, is you can move a project faster. But the reality in New Mexico is that rarely happens. You generally do have state money that is brought in, and then you get additional voices. Some of these are there regardless. CID, I guess, is there regardless of whether it's 100% your money or not. But certainly, sometimes we benefit from some of that input. And now we've got DOT coming in, and we're glad to have DOT coming in. But it has been a slower process, and I said the frustration. I guess I said, to be really honest, I said from the very beginning that mid-year is very hard to do. We did it once in this district. It was very hard, and that was an elementary school. But we'll just have to wait and see where we get. It's just hard in the middle of the year to move students and programs and so forth. And the other, of course, is CNM in terms of the classes that we have there. The other thing I would kind of also remind the board, one of the really positive things that came out of it was when CNM stepped forward and said, we'll do the electric vehicle, the automotive, and the diesel. That freed up more space in that building for these other things. So that was a real plus. The other is just the reality of the fact that we couldn't have done this without them. Financially, we could not have done this. So, bringing them to the table wasn't just a nice thing to do. It's what eventually made this work. So we could have had a much smaller project without them, but we ended up with more space in the building for us to have more programs, and then we get their center when they build it will just be a huge addition to the community of Rio Rancho. The other thing that I think is kind of important is that as we approach this total for this building, just so you kind of have an idea, it's getting almost identical to the cost of the building in Hobbs. So it kind of gives me a good measure to say they built that building. They built it completely different than we did. They had all the money up front. They had, they had some wonderful advantages, but the cost of the two buildings are just very, very close. Why I think that's really important is it's more than what we thought that we were going to get. And we certainly grew the program. But the other is that building was finished now 3 years ago. And we're still getting our building very close to the same. So I think we're getting my point is saying, I think we're getting a pretty good deal out of this when all is said and done. The last comment I have is that both CNM and Rio Rancho are very confident about the general contractor. They've done a lot of work for both entities, and we think they are very strong. And so we feel like they will do a good job in managing to keep our costs and move the project but I certainly hear and understand the frustration. And we certainly hear it too in the community. I know you hear it a lot in the community, that people would like to see this building open sooner than later. And of course, there's no understanding of all the things that have to go into it. But again, I really want to emphasize that at least I don't see any way that we could have done this project without CNM. And so that's why we stayed with it. And yes, it was slow. We do live in two completely different worlds. And when this is all done, I think it will be a good thing for other entities across the state to look at and see how this partnership worked and maybe try to replicate it. The situation at Hobbs in terms of their building is they have no community college involvement in it. It's a very different arrangement. It's 100% their building. They had 100% of the money going in. And so, in that comparison, they're very different. But the end result, very close in size, very close to budget. And I think that's really positive. So, and they didn't have partners at the table that we have because they had all their money up front. But we'll keep working and we'll see, how quickly we can move this. And I think that when everything is said and done, it's going to be wonderful. And you're going to be very proud of the building. The community is going to be very proud of the building. And I do wish we could be moving ahead a little quicker as well. But we are working in extraordinary times. And I think the two biggest things are still ahead that Mike's talked about and Patrick is there going to be labor to build this and do this? And one of the things we've heard from CNM, who's building a trades building right now, it's way behind schedule. And they say it's because they have not been able to get the labor or the equipment in. And that has been a challenge for them. So we hope that we're coming a little bit later in the process, that maybe those supply chain issues are easing up a little bit. And maybe we'll be able to move it a little quicker than they were able to move it. But boy, they have had some challenges in their building. It has nothing to do with anything they could have controlled. At least that's what I've heard from them, is it was the best that, if you don't have the labor, you don't have the labor. But hopefully it's getting better.
Yeah.
And we're going to produce some of that good labor in the future.
Good.
So someone else will
Yes.
really benefit from that.
That's good. All right. Any further questions? Do you have anything else that you want to add?
Just that, again, in the beginning, we probably could have had this built by now if it was an $8 million facility. But not only is it going to benefit our students, it's going to benefit the entire community to include not just our students, but also the adult community as well. And it is something, as Dr. Cleveland said, it is something that the community, I guarantee, will be very proud of.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
I have to say it was kind of fun going as you went through everything. I just thought, oh gosh, I forgot about that. And I forgot about that. These different things that happened.
It was a good review.
It was a good review. It was a good review. Okay, so we're going to go to approve the consent agenda.
Madam President, this is Board Member Tyler. I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Board Member Tripp, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Jessica Tyler and a second by Gary Tripp. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Okay, moving into our business, we'll consider the approval. Sorry, I'm trying to read some of them off my phone. Consider the approval of the grant agreement for CTE to plan, design, and build an access point for the traffic entrance. And Mike Baker, our Chief Operations Officer, will present.
So again, how do you get from $8 million, in our case, to $45 million? One of the ways you cobble many different types of funds together. This is one of those appropriations that has helped us fund this entire project. We do have a capital appropriation in the amount of $850,000 from House Bill 505. This is essentially a flow through to the Department of Transportation, also known as DOT. And it is to the plan, design, and construct an access point essentially at Zenith Court. Zenith Court is the entryway off of 528 onto our CTE property. So likely we will be using this fund to plan and design. And so because it is a state highway, there are many more restrictions and limitations and obstacles that we have to go through and coordinate with the Department of Transportation in order to provide better access or an additional access point. And so we obviously want to start that process as soon as possible. We've been waiting for this for some time now. The appropriation was done almost a year ago, and we are getting the paperwork now, just highlighting some of the issues dealing with government. But that's the process. It is worth $850,000, so we certainly can't shake a stick at that. But we are requesting that the board approve this for our project.
Okay. Any questions from the board on this one? Dr. Cleveland, do you have anything?
My view is, do we anticipate that this will cover all the costs for it? I mean, we would think probably not, but 850,000 is certainly nothing to sneeze at. We're really appreciative to have this. But this may not necessarily completely cover the costs.
That's correct.
Okay, I think the board would want to know that that's maybe not going to cover all of it. And, but we're still really thankful to get this. It's a good grant. And we did go originally to DOT to ask if they would help us with the secretary there. And they didn't have the funding for this kind of thing. So we're grateful that it came through the process it did and that we have it. And I wish I'm trying to remember, maybe you can remember Mike or Lauren, who we thank for this money. Who got, yeah. Was it legislative? Yeah, and so it was one of our, I would like to, we'll go back and research it and be sure that we thank whoever kind of put this forward for us.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And also to add to this, we will be, when we work on this particular project, we will be working with the city of Rio Rancho, utilizing their expertise, because this is something that they commonly do, where this is something that we don't commonly do in regard to state highways.
Okay, thank you. Do a motion.
This board member, Jeff Morgan, I make a motion for the approval of a grant agreement for CTE to plan, design, and build an access point for the traffic interest.
Board Member Tyler, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Jeff Morgan and a second by Jessica Tyler. And then when you take a roll call vote first.
I got one real quick. Did I need to mention the street, or was that?
No, I think you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
All right, thank
I
you.
think that's
Sorry.
what's on the thing.
Vice President Morgan?
Yes.
Secretary Tyler?
Yes.
Board Member Tripp?
Yes.
Board Member Miller?
Yes.
President Galbraith?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, you will consider the approval of a grant agreement for school buses. It's written funny on the agenda. And we have Lynn Carl, our Executive Director of Transportation, who will present.
Good evening, President Galbraith, board members, Dr. Cleveland. So this grant agreement, believe it or not, this bus was actually approved to be replaced in October of 2021. But as you know, school buses are taking a long time to get built, et cetera. We actually received this bus January 10th of this year. So it's taken that long for us to get this bus. This grant agreement was initially presented to you in December of 21. However, because it's taken us so long to receive the bus, the PED funding went from the fiscal year 22. Now it's into 23, so we have to do another grant agreement. And so it's the same grant agreement, but we're in a different fiscal year. And so it just took a really long time for this bus.
Okay. Any questions?
Board Member Tyler, I'll make a motion to approve
I
the
said we
grant
just need
agreement.
27 more.
I know.
You know. So we have a motion by Jessica Tyler. Do we have a?
Board member Jeff Morgan, I second.
And JC, can you take a roll call vote for us?
Vice President Morgan?
Yes.
Secretary Tyler?
Yes.
Board Member Tripp?
Yes.
Board Member Miller?
Yes.
President Galbraith?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, awesome. Thank
Thank
you. Thank you. Did you have anything, Dr. Cleveland, you wanted to add on that one? Other than that, we need a whole lot more.
Except that we need 27 more.
I agree. I want 27 more. Okay. As we go into our advanced planning, I want you all to take note, as we did those appointments for our finance and our audit, if things are not working out, please just let me know so we can make changes there. I'm especially concerned with Board Member Tripp, who has a lot going on with NMSBA. And so if for some reason that is too much, because I know you're trying to kind of not have too much, please just let me know and we can make a change there. Other things for advanced planning, we have the NMSBA Board Institute up in Santa Fe, February 1st through the 3rd. Who's going to be up there for that? I know. Okay, you'll be up there for some of it, and I'll be up there, and you're not going to be able to make it. Okay, I'm just curious, so I know who to say hi to and to look for when we're up there. Okay, it's always freezing cold when we're there. Then we have February 7th is a bus rider count day, and the 12th will be a finance committee meeting at 4, along with a regular board meeting at 5:30. And then February 19th, President's Day, no classes. And then on the 20th, there's a professional development day, so there'll be no classes.
I have one comment
Yeah.
on that. On February 20th, the school calendar that's linked on the website that has the special dates, the list of important dates, it actually indicates that February 20th, it's a secondary expanded learning day for students. We have contradictory information out there.
Elementary is professional development, secondary will be in class. With the legislative 30 hours for secondary, 60 hours, this is one of those days.
Okay.
So the 20th, everyone will basically be at school, even with the expanded day?
Secondary will
Just,
be at school,
okay.
But elementary will be at home.
okay,
Students.
okay. All my kids will wish they were back.
Yeah, because both calendars actually show us a professional development day. And so it kind of, it's not clear on our website if high school students have school or not. So we might want to add to that.
Probably soon, so, because everyone makes those plans. Good catch, thank you for that. Anything else in advanced planning, anything else coming up that we need to discuss? Okay. Okay, all right, thank you. Our meeting for tonight's adjourned. Oh, that doesn't.